Vulnerabilities of radio frequency used in keyless locking system in vehicles by Fulvio Romano. The Newelec NES TD Mini SDR USB stick is a very inexpensive piece of equipment, and I was able to capture different signals in my research. When experimenting with the USB and using the key fob for Renault Megane 2006, I was able to capture the signal for the opening of the doors. The signal was recorded and then exported to Audacity, a free download application usually used for music, but in this case it came in very handy for the signal. As we can see, the signal representation is just one big block, and it was very hard to understand what was going on at the time. When we zoomed in the signal, it was found that the frequency between inside the signals was changing, and the frequency was tighter or modulating tighter and separate, giving an indication of ASK, which would look like ones and zeros. We played the signal for a length of time, and we found that there was a preamble ones and zeros, presumably to indicate to the car that there was a signal coming, and then there was the signal, and the signal kept repeating, and it was very easy to see that while we were playing when I was playing the video. This is a representation of the ASK amplitude shift key, in this case binary amplitude shift key, or effectively known as OOK and or on and off keying. As we can see, there's a 0 off, 1 on, 0 0, double off, double on, and so on and so forth, creating the signal. The remote keyless entry, or the RKE, the advantage of having a remote with a remote keyless entry, it gives the vehicle user an extra higher level of flexibility and comfort in entering the vehicle. Some of the facts to keep in mind about the RKE is as follows. It relies on unidirectional data transmission, as would be expected, as the keyless control gets pointed at the car in order to gain access to the vehicle. When the button is pressed and transmitter in the fob generation a radio frequency signal and transmitted. The radio frequency signal is usually around the 433 MHz, which puts the usable frequency band. The frequency is mainly used in Europe. It is free to use and is in the realm of amateur radio, or the HM. As we saw earlier, the remote keyless entry is vulnerable to the signal being copied and reused. One of the solutions was to have a rolling code. The rolling code is modified RKE, only that the code changes, but the car and the keyless device stay synchronized. If the attacker manages to capture the signal and reuse it later, the code would have changed, making it useless. There is a need to fool the vehicle in thinking that the code was not used, and it is done by signal jamming. The signal is prevented from getting to the vehicle, but in fact a copy or a recording has been made. We need to do this twice in succession, and then replay the first code to open the door for the vehicle user, thinking that it was only used once. However, we now have the next reusable code in hand to use whenever the vehicle stops again. The problem in all the attacks stated in the literature review, one common thread is the attacker was able to copy the signal. The problem lies in the aerial. of the remote device. We stated that in unidirectional, and that because it needs to point towards the vehicle, but the radiation pattern is a very wide dust vulnerable. I would hope to show this in my later works to show the radiation around the person, and then when we use the millimeter wavelength, we should be able to see the difference. My research is going to be using millimeter wavelengths. By using millimeter wavelength, it is possible to beam forming with the aid of an aerial, and they'll be more unidirectional without the extra radiation causing the vulnerability. The 5mm wavelengths can be 1 to 10mm, and it's also in 5G. 5G has a tremendous amount of data capability. I'm not sure which one yet, but I'm going to be looking at them all. Thank you.